Hello everyone, thanks for joining us on Arise News. This is Arise News Special and my name is Ngozi Alebu. My guest on the show today is a politician, a senator in the 8th Assembly, a man who has been described variously as flamboyant. Some say he's a great philanthropist, he's a father, a family man, a man of courage, a man who is not afraid to speak truth to power. I'm talking about none other than Senator Dino Melaye. He's senator representing Kogi West, senatorial district in Kogi State. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
You know, when it comes to talking about a man like you, it's so difficult to know exactly how to pin you down, whether as a politician, you know, a socialite. Because a lot of people look at your flamboyant lifestyle and, you know, some are inspired and while some say, hey, that's a bit over the top. But is there anything about your childhood? Let's start from there. Was there any kind of deprivation in the past that made you decide, you know, and say to yourself, look, when I grow up, I'm going to have everything that I didn't have as a kid? Talk to us about that.
Not exactly. I was born in Kano. My dad was a civil servant. Was working with the Kano State Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Rose to become a higher livestock officer. Attended a private nursery and primary school. But when I was in class 5, went to 6, he lost his job because of his belief in his religious activities. He was he's always with his Bible reading and all that in an environment like Kano. So somehow he lost his job and life became a bit difficult. So I had to move from private school to public school, you know, to round up my primary school education. Despite the fact that I moved from primary 5 in a private school to a public school in primary 6. I was made a head boy. I was the boy of my primary school.
Okay.
And to the glory of God, I also a boy at secondary school. So life was not very pleasant. I trained myself through school because after my Form 3, my GS, or Form 3 as it were then, you know, so my parents couldn't afford my school fees. They were willing to, but they couldn't. So I had to start doing menial jobs to train myself through school. So whatever you see today is me. It's not because I was deprived or because I want to get back what I didn't get. No. It's just about, that's me. That's who Dino Melaye is.
So what was it in you that did not
Because it wasn't my
discourage,
lack.
that didn't discourage you? Yes, because a lot of, you know, kids with a similar, you know, experience that you talk about would actually derail and life just, you know, goes downhill from there. What was it in you that kept you strong and firm?
Fortunately, as a child, I read very early stage of my life, I read revolutionary books. At the age of 9, 10, I was already reading books on Mahatma Gandhi, reading books on Malcolm X, reading books on Franz Fanon, reading books on Martin Luther King. So I think that helped to revolutionize my consciousness, my ideology, my philosophy about life. And I was resolutely determined that I want to speak for those who can't speak for themselves. And I also understand what having capital and finance is to the struggle. You know, there are 3 definitions for money in the Bible. The Bible says money is the wheel of progress. The same Bible said money is the defense. And it says money answereth all things. So I knew early in life for you to do anything, whether the gospel, whether politics, whether infrastructural development, whether business, whether entrepreneurship, you need money. So the spirit of investment, I got indoctrinated with that. I got imbibed with that very early in life. You'll be shocked the kind of very minor investments I was doing even as a child. I bought a goat at the time, you know.
A goat?
Yeah.
Wow, what were you going to do with the goat?
The goats now reproduce. I sell the offsprings and get some money to pay my school fees and do some other, and reinvest again in poultry, so all that, but quietly, and more importantly, I carry a very special grace, unmerited one for that matter. God has been so kind, God has been so faithful, irrespective of my negatives, of my atrocities, I can say.
Well,
God,
atrocities might be a
when
strong word.
when I mean atrocities,
Yes.
I mean sins.
Shortcomings.
Shortcomings, inadequacies, and all that. God has, in fact, I think I'm the most loved person on earth. God has been very, very faithful. Special favor, special grace, special mercy, and yeah.
It's great to hear that, actually. So there is a spiritual side of you. I think there's a bit of that out there. I mean, a lot of Nigerians have seen some videos from you where it's just praise and worship and singing and all of that. But a lot of people wonder how deep, this spirituality is. How deep is it?
Anyway, I'm from a very sound Christian home. My dad is what you call an evangelist. He's an elder of the church. My mom was a deaconess, from a very, very sound Christian home. We're 6 from my family.
Okay.
And surprisingly, the 6 of us, nobody ever smoked or tasted alcohol due to our upbringing. None of us, not any of us, ever tasted alcohol or ever smoked. And I can tell you that none of us have ever experimented or tried any other God apart from God, the supreme control of the universe, apart from the Almighty God. I've never tried any other thing, and I will never do. So I would say that I had a very sound Christian upbringing. And I love God. And I understand the capacity and capabilities of God and Christ. So
Do you get a sense that you're like King David in the Bible, who is described as a man who has really done a lot of things, but in spite of all of that, he still finds this grace that you talk about?
yeah, David is David. He's one of the people in the Bible I have tremendous regard and respect for. But Dino Melaye is Dino Melaye, and I believe that my grace is special, in fact, more special than that of David. And I want to say that I have nothing other than God. I've seen God demonstrate his capacity, his power, that I can't try any other thing. And I love him. I speak to him all the time. I commune with him. At times I put a chair. I say, God, sit down. I want to talk to you. And I get to talk to him.
What are some of the things you tell him?
There's no network failure between me and God. Anytime I call on him, he answers my call. He doesn't give me missed calls. So we have a very, very personal relationship. And I adore him as the supreme controller of the universe. I adore him as my God and Savior. I adore him as my protector. And he's told me he's not giving me the spirit of timidity or fear, but of soundness, of boldness, and of sound mind.
You almost sound like you're preaching already. Is that something you would want to consider? Well, now that you seemingly are not actively into politics, is that something you would want to explore?
Preaching is part of our life. Everyone is a preacher, because the injunction in the Bible is go ye and preach the gospel to all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, up to the utmost part of the world. So it's an injunction to every Christian. And anytime I have the opportunity, I speak about Christ. I'm not ashamed of the gospel, because it's the power of God unto salvation. So I proudly sing anytime I roll on the floor to appreciate God. I think I'm the first and only person on the floor of the Senate who sang songs of praise against our rules, on the floor of the Senate, because I'm not ashamed of the gospel.
We'll definitely come to that. But let's back up a bit and talk about your activism, how it all started. Was it in university? What was that all about?
Actually, primary school. Like I said, very early stage of my life, I read books that, rebranded my consciousness and gave me a particular ideology. And it started all from primary school. I rebuke anything injustice. Even as a boy, I did that against my headmaster, And when I was in secondary school, at Form 2, I organized a riot in Abdulaziz Memorial College. That the Commissioner of Education in the old Kwara, there was no Kogi State then, in the old Kwara had to come and address us. I was suspended, eventually reinstated, In Ahmadu Bello University, I took the university to court, I can say it's been part of my life, and no regrets, because I always believe that in an unjust society, silence is a crime, and you don't, get anything by being silent. You have to speak the truth to power. You have to have the boldness to come out of your cocoon, to right the wrongs in the society. For me, it's mandatory, it's pertinent, it's compulsory, it's obligatory, it's a must.
I know you talk about the fact that your family background, highly spiritual, Christian-oriented, and all of that. What about that prepared you for your kind of politics? I don't want us to move too fast going into that, but we might as well, talk about that. Your politics has not been without controversy. It hasn't been without you shaking the table and maybe even sometimes actually breaking the table. Let's even explore your philosophy. What is your political philosophy, and how did it really guide, or has it guided you so far as a politician?
The truth of the matter is that politicians and Nigerians are pretentious, they are deceptive, they portray the picture of who they are not. They try to be deceptive to deceive the people. They don't want to be who they are. Dino Melaye will go out to the airport with a tattered, destroyed jeans, with a shirt, because that is who I am. But politicians go abroad and they wear these things abroad where people don't know them. But when they are here, they wear babariga and wear suits. For me, that's a pretentious lifestyle. So because Dino is unique in his way by being himself, many people tend to. And many politicians will buy a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, and put their name on the plate number. They can't, because maybe their wealth is proceeds of corruption. I've never done government contracts, whether at local governments, at state or federal level. I've never had opportunity to control government interest.
That's a bit hard for a lot of people to believe that
your wealth, on national television.
That your wealth is not as a result of proceeds.
I'm saying this on a national television. Mm-hmm. And I challenge anyone to prove me otherwise. I've never been invited by EFCC or ICPC. I've never been in court on account of corruption.
What was that incident about where your home was actually besieged? Was it not by EFCC or police?
I have, between 2018 and today, there are 12 court cases, federal government versus Dino Melaye, 12 court cases. But all of them are frivolous charges, politically motivated, because of my audacity, because of my courage to speak the truth to power. But none of them has any tone of corruption at all. Not any. Attempted suicide, charging me for conspiracy while I'm the only one in court, then organizing some tout and saying I gave them ammunitions to go and create havoc, who eventually confessed, I'm sure under anointing in court, that they were being induced, that didn't happen. Out of those 12 cases, 11, I won 11 already. Only one left. And the only one left now is the one where they said I wanted to commit suicide. And I'm yet to convince the court. Is it with a gun? Is it with, poison?
But you tried to jump off that vehicle in motion.
You must have been there to be very sure.
Well, that's what Nigerians were told.
That is why we're in court.
Did that not happen?
No, it never happened.
You'd never tried to jump out of the...
You can't jump out of a moving vehicle without bruises. Mm. You can't jump out of a moving vehicle without broken bones.
Could it have been grace that covered you?
No, that's not true. No scratch, nothing. Is that possible? No. It's not possible. Those are just lies from the pit of hell. All just to get me out of my seat in the Senate. So the truth of the matter is we live in a very precarious situation, and I believe that the books I read early in my life taught me how to be bold. And the Bible also foiled that. Because for me, I've conquered fear. I fear no soul, I only respect souls. And my philosophy in life is that in an unjust society, silence is a crime. We can't, except we move out of our cocoons, we cannot get the Nigeria of our dream.
How can that Nigeria of our dream be realized? What exactly is even the Nigeria of our dream? What do you think the Nigerian dream or the Nigeria of our dream is?
The Nigeria of our dream is when we start practicing democracy in its lucid interpretation, democracy. government of the people, by the people, and for the people. What we have now is not democracy. I repeatedly say that anywhere I go. What we have is greediocracy. Government of the greedy, by the greedy, and for the greedy. It is when we start practicing democracy that we will have the Nigeria of our dream. It is when government is afraid of the people and not the people afraid of government that we are going to have the Nigeria of our dream. It is when the people of Nigeria realize that those in power in Nigeria, including myself, are about 3% of the population. And it is a misnomer, it's anathema, for 3% to dominate 97% and they remain silent. When we realize that, we'll have a Nigerian of our dream. It is when we realize that nobody in Nigeria is distinguished. No senator is distinguished until Nigerians become distinguished. Until we realize no governor is excellency, no president is excellency, no deputy governor is excellency, until the life of Nigerians become excellence. Until we realize no honorable member of the House of Reps or House of Assembly is honorable, until Nigeria have an honorable, decent life. Then we can begin to talk about Nigerian of our dream. Until our bishops, our imams, our activists, our community leaders, our emirs, our obis, our obas have the temerity and the audacity to speak the truth to power, then we'll start having a Nigerian of our dream. So until the political parties in power have control of the policies of government, NPN, those days, when they are having a convention, Shagari sits in the crowd while the party leaders sit up. The party leaders develop policies, develop manifestos, develop programs for the government, because that is the party in power. But today our political parties have no manifestos, they have no ideology. The Second Republic even have exemplars of ideology. If you vote for NPN those days, you are sure of having at least a housing estate, like the Jakande, Latif Jakande housing estates. Anywhere there's NPN in power, you are sure of housing estates. Anywhere you have UPN in power those days, you are sure of free education, like as it was in the southwest of Nigeria. So each party have a semblance of an ideology. But today, you have APC in Kano, you have APC in Kaduna, but the programs of APC government in Kaduna is different from that of Kano.
What do you think has brought us to that point where the party is not on the driving seat of, whatever the politician does?
Yeah. What brought us to that stage is because parties became subservient to the presidency and to governors. For example, the caucuses of parties now, national caucus of the party, meet in the villa. They take themselves to the villa to meet with the president. Instead of the president coming to party office to hold meetings, meetings now hold in the villa. The president now determines who is the national chairman of the party, who is that, because they are the ones funding the parties with public funds, either at state level or at national level. It was not so before. But now governors sponsor parties, they pay the rent of parties, they pay for conventions, they pay for all forms. The presidency, through stolen, looted funds from parastatals, agencies, and ministries, fund political parties. So all parties are answerable to governors and the president. You know why? No political party in this country today pay dues.
But you don't seem to have very nice or kind words, to say about the Nigerian politician. Are you saying the political class, including yourself, actually failed Nigerians?
The political class, including myself, failed Nigerians. Because what is expected of us has not happened. Corruption is pervasive. Insecurity everywhere. Killings. Ineptitude, mismanagement, fraud, kidnapping, all these should be placed at the doorstep of politicians. because we have been nepotic all this while. And what is nepotism? Giving the right thing to the wrong person to do the wrong thing the wrong way. At a time in this country, a lawyer was the group MD of NPC. When you give carpentry job to a tailor, it will never perform. And it's responsible for why we are where we are. We are square pegs in round holes. We are not very professional in the way we handle appointments and placements in this country. As I'm speaking to you, in the whole financial sector of the federal government, in the management of the economy of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there is no single economist. Not one economist. From Security and Exchange Commission, through Central Bank, through the Federal Ministry of Finance, just go round that way.
Including Nigeria's Economic Summit Group?
You want to tell it that? I'm talking of all governments. None. Not one economist. How do you run a country like that? The Federal Executive Council has been run in 1 year on Zoom.
Well, is it not because of
2-3 weeks ago, 797 billion was approved on Zoom. And what are you saying? You say COVID. The same ministers, the members of the Federal Executive Council, they are less than 60. Is there no hall with social distancing that can take 60 people in the villa? The banquet hall can take 1,000, respecting the protocols of COVID. The same ministers who attend the Federal Executive Council all attend church and mosque outside the villa, where people are compacted. Their kids are in school. The markets are open. Stadiums are open. Then, but where you have just 60 people who will decide, who take policy decisions on how we run our government for 1 year has been on Zoom. Has been on Zoom.
What do you think is responsible for that? What do you think is playing out?
It's leadership failure. Incapacity and incapacitation of Mr. President. Intellectual stagnancy of both the president and people around him. America got a more severe hit of COVID than we are. They are not holding their executive council meetings and all that on Zoom. If the parliament with 109 people, the parliament with 360 people are sitting, why would people who are less than 100, why won't they sit? Where serious memos would be debated, where policy decisions and formulations would be taken, where people are supposed to come and defend very serious contracts, then you hold a 1 hour, 1.5 hour Zoom meeting and take instantaneous decision. That is outrageously calamitous and shows very grievous irresponsibility.
One of the things that baffles me when I speak with great politicians like yourself, I see a lot of brilliance, people who really know what to do, who know what the problems are, and even how to go about solving them. But that doesn't seem to reflect in governance as a whole. What is responsible for that? I mean, you have a vice president who is a professor of law. You know, in many instances, people would say that this government has flouted the rule of law a lot. Yet you have a VP who is a professor of law, like I said. What exactly do you think is wrong? Is it a lack of a critical mass of people like yourself, revolutionaries, visionaries, and what have you, in the government, not necessarily this present government, but all other, previous governments before now? Is that what is missing? Or have you been able to identify it? What is it?
The problem is fear.
Fear of what?
It's worse when you have a president that lacks both capacity and capability. That's double jeopardy. When you have a bureaucracy that cannot speak the truth to power. This is what you get. When you have incompetent people in positions of authority, this is what you get. Like I said earlier, when you give carpentry job to a tailor, don't expect any performance. This government is like a football match. You have been fielding particular players for 20 matches and there's no goal. And you continue to field those same players. Definitely. I mean, you are reinforcing failure. You are reinforcing failure. Put a gun today. Put a gun today on 50% of those in power. They can't give you their email address.
Maybe I should even take it from the word you just mentioned now, a gun. The gun has been used to kill the sleep of Nigerians in terms of the sense of the pervasive sense of insecurity in the land. It's gotten so bad that irredentists are rising up from here and there. Nigerians, whether it's in the southeast, the southwest, different parts of the country, are saying, look, maybe it's time we went our different ways. Let's talk about the security situation in Nigeria. What do you think has led to it?
The truth of the matter is that we have incompetent commanders. One will be amazed that Buhari rose to the rank of a general in the Nigerian army. And yet, he is completely intellectually stagnant as to how to handle the security issues of this country. Many of the generals we have rose to generals by quota system, not by competence. Not by competence. The problem of insecurity in this country can be solved, but because of corruption, because some people have now turned this whole insecurity thing to a meal ticket and a means of getting illegal wealth. That's why it can't stop. Because they've now seen it as a means of livelihood.
So you agree that it's the political class that...
Where you see the national security advisor of a country, though he came back to deny it, but I heard it on outside service of BBC, that the whole $1 billion allocated for the purchase of ammunition was stolen. We invested money in the 12 Tucano jets 5 years ago. No story about it. Buhari's administration is coming to an end. 7 years down the line, we've not heard anything. Since the investment was done in 2016. Millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. We've not heard anything about it. So the whole thing is corruption. And that corruption, it has only two legs in this country. If we can take care of these two legs of this corruption, we are good.
How do you even take care of the problem of corruption? We'll still come back to the issue of insecurity. You do have a movement, an anti-corruption movement.
Yeah, anti-corruption network.
Are you able to say this is a solution to Nigeria's corruption problem? And when we say corruption, what exactly are we talking about? Is it just the misappropriation of funds? Is it the diversion of funds? Or is it...
I will advise you pick up my book, Antidote to Corruption.
Give us an insight.
It will help to give you an history of the corruption in this country. Corruption in this country, like I said, it's got two legs. And if we can take care of those two types of corruption, we're good. Home and dry. You see, the BP, the Bureau for Public Procurement, need to be completely overhauled. And that act that set up the BPP also have to be worked on. Because 90% of the corruption in this country is procurement. When I was a member of the House of Representatives, The construction of the second runway of the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport was in the budget in 2008 for 8 billion naira. Somehow it was not done. So it was rolled over to the next year, which is 2009. But by the time it was rolled over to the next, it became 64.5 billion.
From 8 billion.
From 8 billion to 64.5 billion. And it was approved by BPP. Certificate of no objection was issued. The Federal Executive Council sat and ratified it. And I came to the floor of the Senate and said, no, it's not possible. Because I did my research at that time. Gombe was building a complete airport. We are talking of a runway, just a runway in an existing airport. But Gombe built an entire, Goje then built an entire airport with tarmac, with everything, for less than 30 billion. Akwa Ibom at that time was also building for about the same amount of money. Delta had just awarded contract for a new brand new hospital, airport for less than 30 billion. At that time, Heathrow was a new airport, and they just built, and we wanted to build one single 4.0 kilometer runway. Heathrow just built 6 lanes of 4.2 kilometer runway. All put together cost them 11 billion naira equivalent. For 4.2 kilometer runway. We are building 4.0, 1 lane kilometer runway for 64 point something billion that can build 2 airports.
So the corruption in Nigeria.
So eventually, as a result of that procurement corruption, the president at that time, Yaradua, set up a presidential committee led by Sheikh Lemu and late Femi Odekunle and co, and they reduced it to 49 billion. I came back to the Senate and said, no, even that 49 billion was a rape. My party then cautioned me, but I refused to listen until that contract was cancelled. So you can see how 8 billion became 64 billion. If you go through the budget of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is the same budget. Every year, ministries, departments and agencies of government, parastatals are buying computers in the budget. You see purchase of computers, purchase of photocopy machine. If you go through all these ministries and parastatals, most of them are still using IBM.
Don't they change those every now and again?
The money is stolen, but it's in the procurement. And procurement process, they have now developed a strategy. Because they know that anything that is beyond 50 million goes beyond the powers and approval of the minister, understand? It must go to Federal Executive Council for approval. So all they now do is to break procurement into less than that amount. Then approvals will be given.
Is it done with the collusion of the civil service? So much has been said about Nigeria's, a lot has been said about Nigeria's civil service.
No minister is an accounting officer in any ministry. It is the PAMSEC that is the accounting officer. So without the cooperation and collusion of the civil service, it is impossible to steal. It's impossible to steal.
The reform needs to begin from.
Each ministry have a procurement department. So if we get, that is why I say there's nothing we need more than the civil service reform.
Let's come back to the issue of insecurity, because that is a clear and present danger that's left so many Nigerians wondering whether come 2023, that so many people keep talking about, whether Nigeria will still exist as we know it. What do you think is the solution to this? Number one, the issue of insecurity, and this calls by different segments of the country to go their separate ways. Will that be the solution? Will restructuring solve that problem?
Insecurity in Nigeria is due to inept, incompetent leadership. Once you get the right leadership, insecurity will stop.
Is it just a leadership problem?
As I speak to you, the security architecture of this country has remained the same. It's the same. And you cannot keep applying a particular strategy to a problem and it's failing and you continue to apply it and expect results. It will not. There will be no results. We need to rejig the security architecture of Nigeria. And we need a president that will give ultimatum to commanding officers.
How do you rejig?
Rejigging a security architecture is very simple. It's very, very simple. You don't solve a problem without a research. You set up competent people to look at the problems. And you know where to carry out reforms and changes.
Is the political will there to do it?
That is completely lacking in this instance. And that is what I'm saying. That's why I said it is the ineptitude and incapacitation and incompetence of leadership that is responsible for security problems in the country. Once we have the right leadership, with the right political will, all these problems will solve. See what has been happening all over. Has there been one day that the president will wake up and say, you, the IGP, I give you 3 months to do this or you go? Have you heard anything like that? So everybody is relaxed. Whether you succeed as an IG, whether you succeed as chief of army staff or not, whether you succeed as chief of naval staff or not, you have a president that his attitude is like a photocopy machine. You understand? It will not add anything, it will not minus anything. What you put in is what you get. So everybody is relaxed. The body language of the president is not offensive. Nobody is afraid of Buhari again.
The body language of Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, doesn't seem to elicit that respect.
It's aloof. The president is absent. The president is completely absent. The president is not present. And people are not afraid of the president. People are not even, maybe not to use the word afraid. People are not even conscious that there's a president watching. There is a lot of contradiction in policy statements in one government. This is the first time in the history of this country that I will hear presidency says, we don't need presidency, we need a president. I want to hear president said, but all we have been getting is presidency says. When Garbachev will talk, presidency says. Adesina talks, presidency says. I want to hear the president, chief of army staff. You cannot flush Boko Haram in 6 months, you are fired. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I need him to speak. I need him to act. When last did you see Buhari commissioning project? When last did you see him leave the villa? He needs to leave the confine of his comfort. He's the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Nigerians want to interact. Nigerians, media want to ask him questions. When last did our president speak to the media?
Let's talk about your party, the People's Democratic Party. A lot of people would say that the party seemed to have dropped the ball, and that was why the APC was able to kick the PDP out. 2023 is around the corner, and a lot of permutations going on. People are saying that it's time to, for power shifts and all of that. It's time for it to move to the south, specifically to the southeast, because according to a lot of people, the southeast has not gotten a fair share. But the PDP is saying, we're going to leave it open. We're not going to do zoning and all of that. Help us understand exactly why.
I want to start by correcting an erroneous impression. The PDP have not said that, and PDP have not taken a decision on leaving it open or not. That is not correct, because I'm a member of the neck of the PDP. What happened is that a committee was set up, and the committee made a proposal that have not been debated and ratified. So that cannot be a conclusion because it has not been discussed, it has not been ratified, a position has not been taken, a committee has been set up to even review that position before then the neck of the party can sit down with the board of trustees, of course, and take decision. So you cannot even compare the PDP and the APC because the PDP is a political party with full-fledged political colors, while the APC is an NGO. It's an NGO, it's not a political party.
A non-governmental organization?
Yes.
Why do you say so?
Why I say so is because they have been run by a caretaker committee. Caretaker committee is illegal. The same president is saying he doesn't want caretaker committee in all local governments in Nigeria. But his own party is being run by a caretaker committee. And caretaker committee is offensive both to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and even the Constitution of APC itself. Because it's an illegal body. They are not voted. A convention must produce the leadership of the party. So a party that is being run by a caretaker committee is not a political party. Because a political party, by the dictates and letters of the Constitution of APC and even the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, must have elected officers in a convention. And they can't hold a convention. They were supposed to hold in December last year. They postponed it. Again, they extended the tenure of the caretaker committee. And I'm sure till December this year, they will not be able to hold a convention. And a party that is not, a party that cannot hold convention is not a political party. Not only that, APC in the last 6 years, since its creation, have no board of trustees. They have no board of trustees. And one of the cardinal instruments of operating a political party before INEC can register you is that you must present members of your board of trustees. They've not held one board of trustee meeting in 6 years. And they have no board of trustees. So that's not a political party, it's an NGO.
Okay, your own political party, the PDP.
All these structures are present. We have a NEC, we have elected officials, we have a national working committee, we have an effective board of trustees, and we've been holding our NEC meetings in and out.
Come 2023, why should Nigerians have confidence that the PDP that held power for 16 years actually wanted to hold on to it for 60 or didn't? How do you convince the average Nigerian that the PDP should be given that chance?
I will use my personal experience. I was the most antagonistic character to Goodluck Jonathan and the PDP government between 2011 and 2015. I was on the streets every day, protesting in and out of this country. But do you know, I can tell you that in those 4 years of protests, vehement one against Jonathan administration, I was not arrested and detained for 1 day. I'm talking of personal experience here. I was not arrested or detained.
Was a more tolerant party, tolerant of
This is democracy. This is democracy. I'm talking about rule of law, which is the foundation of any government. But in 2017, I was arrested 18 times. In 2018, I was arrested 19 times. In 2018, between 2017 and 2018, out of 365 days, I was in police detention for 187 days. As I speak to you, I told you, federal government versus Dino Melaye, 12 court cases is suited against me. So that is enough to tell Nigerians the difference. And this is my own experience. Many other people have their own experiences. See what happened with NSAS. Innocent Nigerians who should have their own voice. They don't want you to ask questions. They want to stiffen everybody. Once you are opposition, they set you up. They send you to prison. They arbitrarily arrest. The level of magnitude of insecurity we have now is 100 times more than what we experienced during Jonathan.
I'm glad because you just talked about NSAS. Let me take my next question from there. That NSAS event seems to have opened the eyes of Nigerians that, look, the Nigerian youth really can step to the plate when it comes to demonstrating leadership and ability to organize instead of agonizing. What do you think about the Nigerian youth and governance in Nigeria? Do you think they really have come of age to the point that they should be handed over
The truth of the matter is
reins
that
of power?
when you push people to the wall, they will react. Nobody knew what happened in Tunisia. Could happen at that square. Nobody knew what happened in Egypt. Could happen. Even the NSAS in Nigeria, nobody thought it could happen. And the situation is not getting better, it's getting worse. So definitely government should expect that something bigger than what happened with NSAS is coming. And when it starts, no one can stop it. So I expect this government to be sensitive and become born again. And then recall and change. They still have the opportunity to, because they have over 2 years.
Are you talking about more change? This government promised change. What kind of change are you talking about?
They promised change, but they did not define whether it's positive or negative change. I am talking of positive change. What we have seen is negative change. Because when this government came into power, dollar was about 200. Today it's 400 and something. When this government came into power, I was flying economy to Lagos for 23,000, business class for 40,000. I just came back from Lagos. I paid 120,000 to go to Lagos. What I normally pay to go to London on economy. So there is no sector of our national life today that is working.
So how can it work? How do we make it work? In a way that Nigerians will believe in Nigeria again. So they don't start asking for, let me land, they don't start asking for Oodua Republic, they're not asking for Biafra and all of those. How do we put an end to all of this?
The way to put an end to this, is for the president to excuse us.
In what way? What do you mean?
The president needs to leave.
How?
The president have no capacity, medical, physical, mental, intellectual, to carry us out of the woods. He has exhibited gross incompetence, and his performance in every facet of our national life is F9 parallel. And you cannot continue to reinforce failure and expect a positive concomitant effect.
But a lot of people would say, look, it is the structure of the country. It is not necessarily about who is there. That
the structure can be affected if you have the right leadership. Even a structure that is not working can work. We have seen it happen in Rwanda. We've seen it happen with Tunisia just lost their president. Tanzania. We have seen this revolution happen where leadership has affected structure, have affected system, and things started working. Revolution took place. Once you have the man who knows what time it is in the world today, a man that can compete with the technological and scientific demands of recent times. Is it a leader that when you put a gun on his head, he cannot give you his email address? That you think in the 21st century will make a mark? A man that has not successfully done any business in his life, that is known and open? A man who has not turned 1 naira to 500 naira before in his life? You want him to come and operate a country as complex with heterogeneous nature like Nigeria? We need a man that knows what time it is. We need a man that is indoctrinated and imbibed with not only the rudiment of administration, but with economic sense.
So does Nigeria have that man who you say would know what the time is?
We have
that man that can take Nigeria to
we have a lot
promised
of
land.
them. And that is why I am advising my party. Who you present as your presidential candidates matter. Because now Nigerians are not the same as those in 2019. The NSAS have completely opened the eyes of many. If you bring a mediocre, if you bring one who will just come and maintain status quo, if you bring one that is not seen as capable of turning things around, they will start stoning us during campaigns. We need one this time that will obviously make a difference.
I'll repeat my question. Are you that man, possibly?
I'm more than competent and capable because I am more intellectually mobile than Buhari. I am more educated than Buhari. I am even more traveled, I can say, than Buhari. So in all ramifications apart from age, I'm better. And there are many other Nigerians with serious capacity to change this country. People who mean well for this country. People who will take daring decisions to save Nigeria. Buhari has not even taken any decision at all. He cannot even take decision. It's like a father, you're sitting down, two of your kids are beating each other. You are in the living room, reading newspaper, two of your kids are fighting, and blood is coming out of one. And you just carry your newspaper, fold it, and go upstairs. That's the type of president we have. He has not shown any concern. He's behaving as if he's a there's no stimuli. There's no reaction to stimulus. It's aloof. The president is absent. The president is not with us. The president has not joined our ancestors. So he's in transition. So anyone who is in transition cannot be effective. If you are going to America and you are transiting through London, you can't enter London. The airport you go there because you're in transition. You cannot have the luxury of going to do something quickly and come back because you are in transition. So Buhari is in transition. And that is why we are stationary.
Okay, so what will it take now to move Nigeria? You say Nigeria is stationary.
I said the man should excuse us. That's the solution.
Beyond Buhari, this is no longer even about Buhari, where Nigeria finds itself. Do you think you can actually lay the blame squarely at his, at his doorstep? A lot of people would say that the PDP, or the party that you actually belong to, did not lay the right foundation.
Because leadership comes with responsibility. Leadership comes with responsibility. Leadership is not just for you to say, I'm president. No. It comes with responsibilities. And if you fail in those responsibilities, you must have the temerity and the character to accept it. And if you, a Hilux, a Toyota Hilux, want to carry the load that the 911 is carrying, he go tire. So since Buhari knows that Nigeria is too big for him to handle, all he should excuse us. It's a very simple thing. On behalf of blah, 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 I tender my... Very simple.
Okay, let's very quickly, before we round up, I still want to get your perspective about this calls for separation.
Separation?
Yes.
No.
I
believe in the indivisibility of this country. I believe we are better off a united country. I believe our potentials are better harnessed as a united Nigeria. And I believe that the whole reason for this agitation is because of failure of leadership. Not only failure of leadership, it's also the way positions have been shared in this country. When we have a president that will unite this country, when we have a president that will be equitable in the distribution of both natural and human resources in this country, the country will be together. This whole agitation is because of appointment is one-sided all over the country. Open preference for a section of the country definitely will create agitation. But when we have a president who is truly a Nigerian and seen as a Nigerian and acts like a Nigerian, all this agitation will go. In fact, anybody making agitation will be seen as a madman. So it all boils down back to what I told you earlier. Leadership. Leadership. Once the head is roughened, every part of the body will be.
Okay, so what role are you playing in terms of leadership now? I mean, you're no longer in the Senate, and
you don't even need to be in the Senate to play your part in this country.
How you?
That is why I'm cautious.
What's next?
That's why we're cautious. That's why we're creating awareness. That's why we're talking to people. That 2023 should be different. We should go for the right leadership. We should go for one that will ameliorate and palliate our problems. We should go for one who will give the green color some international respect. We should go for one where the president of Nigeria is mentioned because of his intellectual capacity, because of his humane nature, because of his ambience. Nigerians will be respected. Not a president that cannot grant interviews. You meet him at the airport in Paris, he can't speak. Not a president who sneaks in and out of countries because he doesn't want to be embarrassed. No, we want a president that is bold, that is an orator, that will defend Nigeria and speak for Nigeria. We want a president that knows what's up.
In terms of style?
That can sit with Zuckerberg
In terms of
and discuss. We sit with Bill Gates, discuss. That will meet with Warren Buffett and discuss. A versatile president who understands international economy, who understands global politics, who also will have influence in Africa. The last president with that kind of influence was Obasanjo. Today, Nigeria is completely down in Africa. To the extent that countries like Ghana, with a population of 20 million people, stand up to Nigeria. Countries like Senegal, that will not dare stand up to Nigeria. Failure of leadership.
Is there any hopeful words that you want to leave for Nigerians that you want Nigerians to believe in? Is there anything to hope for, really?
What I want to say is that every Nigerian must decide to either walk in the light of creative altruism or we all perish in the darkness of destructive selfishness. We have no other country to call our own but this country. Nigeria will and can be great if we get the right leadership. So 2023 is our golden opportunity to present the right leadership at all levels. And women and youths, it is time for them to be part and parcel of policy formulation and implementation. Nobody should stay away. Some people will say, no, I don't care who is president, my father is rich. When the poor have nothing to eat again, they'll start eating the rich.
I'm even glad you talk about women and youth. I did ask you about the youth question earlier. I'm not sure you've answered that question. But a lot of times, I mean, women and youth seem to be just used by politicians. When they're done, they dump them.
They allow themselves to be used.
How do you get women and youth to be
Because they allow themselves to be used. The demography of this country, youth and women constitute over 50%. Youth and women constitute over 50-60% of the electoral force. So if they decide to get it right, that will be the direction Nigeria will go. So this time, they should get it right. And they should not allow the influence of peanuts, rice, rappers to determine who they will vote for next.
Haven't you given that out?
You can give that out, but not for electoral purposes. You can give it out to people as palliatives, but not for the purpose of influencing their votes. It can be an humanitarian gesture, but on election day to be sharing wrappers and sharing money and sharing is an abomination. And is the reason why we're where we are.
Would you still seek elective position? And what would that
Definitely. You're talking to the future president of this country, God willing.
Nice to hear.
I will seek elections. I'm too young to retire.
At 47?
I'm too young to retire.
Thank you so much. It's been a delight speaking with you.
Thank you. The
Senator
pleasure is mine.
Dino Melaye, representing Kogi West Senatorial District. That's from Ayetoro Gbede.
Yeah,
right
from
there.
USA, United States of Ayetoro.
Ayetoro Gbede. All right. Thank you so much for joining us on
The
Arise
pleasure is always
Special.
mine. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next time. I am Ngozi Alebu.